The live stream is preparing.
All right. We are live. Hello, welcome everybody. This is Tartle at the Duke. Let me just make sure we are all technologically good here, and I think we are. Okay, so this is Tartle at the Duke. It's a very special student showcase edition. We have 9 people who took writing and reading the humorous personal narrative with me. And tonight they will be reading their stories that they have worked on for 4 weeks. So each person wrote one story over the course of 4 weeks, and they will be reading their final products tonight. It's been really exciting to watch everybody. I've seen, the initial ideas for these stories all the way through to these polished, great pieces. I'm very proud of them. And I think that this is going to be an amazing show. So, okay, I guess let's just get started. So our first reader tonight is Jeff Cheney.
Hey everybody, so my story is called 40 Schmorty. So there I was, 16 in the mid-1990s, playing video games with my younger brother. Typical Saturday night, rocking 9-inch nails on a boombox on the bedroom floor. We were sitting on beanbags, sipping Dr. Pepper, and munching on candy. Suddenly, in my peripheral vision, I caught movement of a strange figure in my window. It was a pale face, painted like a cat. Whiskers, a triangle painted on its nose, and a creepy smile that said, "Hello, children," without saying a word. I could feel the fight or flight response kick in. Stranger danger! I need an adult! I mean, who was this? A psychopath scaring me and my brother on a Saturday evening of Sonic the Hedgehog, Trent Reznor, and Twizzlers? It knocked on my window, smiling from ear to ear. I'm the older brother. I had to take charge and confront whatever was about to happen. As I got closer to the window, I realized the face looked rather familiar. It was my mother. The anger of being tricked and scared quickly switched to concern. I opened the window to ask what the hell was going on, only to be interrupted by my mother asking, "Y'all want to paint your faces like it's Halloween?" It was July and after dark, so you can imagine my brother and I had to calm down from the sudden shock of the potential kitty cat killer to realize it's only my mom and her sanity dissolving right in front of us. My mom is an intelligent, funny, creative, 5.5-foot tall Texan. She was wearing all black and her hair done nicely like she was going to go out. To be honest, it did sound fun, so we joined in and painted our faces. And I still have the photo to prove my mother's first step into the let's get weird phase. My mom had just turned 40, and my parents had just separated. Obviously, she didn't take it well. I remember coming into the living room at 6 o'clock p.m., and my mom had just woke up. "Mom, you vamping again?" This is a time in her life where she was avoiding the sun and all of her problems. She would stay up all night and sleep all day just like a vampire. It'd be funny if it were a sitcom or a Saturday morning cartoon, but it was my mother with responsibilities that she was avoiding. "Ha! You're just jealous because you have to go to school in the morning," she said. Then I had to confront her about a new problem. "Mom, where's all the food? The pantry's full of those damn salt and pepper shakers." My mother had started building a collection of over 50 sets of ceramic salt and pepper shakers she bought from various thrift stores, antique malls, flea markets, estate sales. Rows and rows of all varieties and shapes and characters lined the shelves of our pantry as a new display case. Some of these shakers were even shaped like food. "Jeffrey, I moved the food into the cupboards above the sink. You know I collect salt and pepper shakers. One day some of these might be worth some money," she said. "That's not a thing, Mom." I began to rummage through the cupboards where everything was squeezed together looking for dinner options. And then I saw them. 6 jars of Gerber baby food. "Mom, why do we have baby food in here?" My mom went into roaring laughter from embarrassment and tried to justify her late night trip to Kroger. It's just a healthy, easy way to forget all my veggies. You should try the sweet potato carrot. It's good for you, Jeffrey. Mom, try a V8, a smoothie. But baby food, really? During this time, my brother and I began to act wild with little to no supervision. We were in a rural area of Fort Worth, Texas, with 3 acres of land and hardly any neighbors. My dad was living in an apartment several miles away. In the area of Beavis and Butthead, my brother and I decided to set a small fire. A very small, controlled fire in the garage, with a coffee can filled with gasoline and a roll of toilet paper in it. After we did our obligatory cornholio impression, fire, 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 we lit the small, controlled fire to watch it immediately get out of hand. The ball of fire was shooting from the top of the can. It kept growing with tons of black smoke filling our garage. We tried to move the flaming coffee can, but it was so hot it ended up tipping over and spilling the flaming gasoline into our driveway. Don't worry, we had a water hose. I mean, come on, safety first. Then we saw my mom's car headlights coming down the driveway. By the time she got out of the car, there were no flames, just black, stinky smoke. Cue Billy Joel's "We Didn't Start the Fire." My mom's strange behavior all came to a head one night in particular when I was watching TV and my mom walked in with a sandwich on her bare hand. "Jeffrey, I made myself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and decided I wasn't hungry. Do you want it?" Of course I wanted a sandwich, but as I reached over to grab it, my mother added, "I didn't do anything to it." I froze in place, with my eyes locked at my mother. My immediate reaction was, what the hell did she do to it? A very suspicious thing to add when I was already reaching for what looked like an innocent-looking snack. "What the hell, Mom? Why did you say that?" I nervously asked. I said I did not do anything to it. Now the sandwich on her bare hand instead of a plate seemed really fucked up. Knowing my mother was acting weird, my trust in her went right out the window with her face painted like a cat. "Actually, you know what? I'm good. I'm not hungry." "You heard me, right? I did not do anything to it." "Yeah, but why is it not on a plate?" "I didn't want to dirty a dish. I swear to God, there's nothing wrong with this sandwich. Jesus Christ." My mother, the atheist, now doubling down with a promise to God? That meant absolutely nothing. A desperate attempt to show how serious she was trying to convince me to eat this suspect sandwich. I don't think my mother poisoned it or was going to try to do me any harm, but I wouldn't put it past her that she dropped the sandwich and decided the 5-second rule only applied to her kids. Or she thought I wasn't eating right and grounded up some vitamins and mixed it in the extra chunky style Jif peanut butter that choosy moms prefer. My mom left the room with the sandwich in hand. Bare hand, that is. 15 years later, as an adult, I was having lunch with my mom and her new boyfriend, Kip, and I brought this story up. I asked, "I have to know what was up with that night. Did you drop it? Did you actually do something to it? Why did you need to clarify you didn't do anything to it?" "You don't think I was trying to kill you, do you? I'm your mother. I love you." I wondered if the memory slip was conveniently on display for her new boyfriend. After all, I was bringing up something from her dark past that did not present her in the best light. Around the same time, I was reflecting on the past with my dad, who's former Air Force, 6'2", part-time cowboy, built like a football player, who worked most of his life building combat fighter jets. I asked what he was up to during this time in the mid-1990s. "Jeff, I was sleeping with as many women as humanly possible." "Oh my God, Dad, what?" "Well, I started with the ladies in my carpool. Remember the women calling the house, asking for me and hanging up?" "So just the carpool ladies?" "Well, you remember when I started running marathons? It was for a gal I met at the gym." "Dad, anyone else?" "Well, your Aunt Deborah." "What? Mom's sister? Like before or after her husband died?" "Oh, after. I wouldn't have done that to your mother. We were separated, remember? And Deborah was single." "Widowed, Dad. Widowed. Anyone else?" "Well, you remember Jackie?" "Jackie was my dad's deceased brother's wife's third cousin." Try finding that category on Pornhub. I'm turning 40 next month, and my version of Salt and Pepper Shaker Collection is taking a bunch of improv classes on Zoom. I haven't painted my face or stayed up all hours of the night vamping. I haven't tried to bang my brother's wife's relatives. Although, to be honest, I have snuck heartworm medicine into peanut butter and given it to my dog in my bare hand. And just like 16-year-old me, my dog looks at me like, what did you do to the peanut butter? Like, how does my dog know I did something to it this time? I have to lock eyes with him and say, I swear to God, I didn't do anything to the peanut butter. Jesus Christ. And I'll end on, since we're on Zoom, the picture from the beginning of the story where my mom wore her face painted like a cat. The end.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Jeff. That was wonderful. I am so glad we got to see the picture. That really brought it all home for me. Thank you again for reading that. Let's everybody give Jeff a warm round of applause. Okay, so our next reader is very special. This is my sister. She is reading to us all the way from Switzerland. And her name is Tina DeLuca. Yep. And my name is Gina DeLuca. So it's complicated. But yes, let's give it up for Tina DeLuca, everybody.
Thank you, Gina. Okay, everybody. My story is called More Cowbell. And here it is. I placed my homemade directional sign at the building entrance with giant heads of Dora and Diego on small bodies, fingers pointing, in which read, Vamonos, spelled incorrectly in large bold letters. Unbeknownst to me, Vamonos actually means let's get out of here, as opposed to vamos, which is the word I should have used to say let's go. Today, we are hosting a 2-hour birthday party for dozens of 5-year-olds, their siblings, and parents. This will be the first birthday party we have ever held for our firstborn child. 5 years ago, we left everyone in America to pursue a permanent life in Switzerland. We have no family here and have come to rely on friends to share in the important milestones of our children's lives. However, many of those friends have already moved on from Switzerland to new assignments in faraway lands. So we have latched onto a cycle of starting over with a new crop of expats every couple of years, while we stay in the exact same spot. This party is, of course, a celebration for our daughter, Audrey, but is also our big chance to re-expand our social circle and mingle with loads of adults. Naturally, I want everything to be perfect. There happens to be a fierce smell of manure outside, so I need a plan B for the 10 minutes I allotted to play the game L'Homme Noir. I am not making up this horrific name for a children's game where a line of kids try to run past one kid who is called the Black Man. They say it's not racist here, though. Still, I renamed the game, and the Philadelphian in me calls it Tom Brady. Now I'm feeling really disappointed because I can actually taste how bad it smells outside, and there is no way we'll be able to play it. It's mid-March, and the cows haven't gone up to the Alps yet for summer. Usually, the farmers rotate them in various grass patches around the township, and today, the cows were left to graze on the long plot by the public school where we rented the cafeteria. This also happens to be across the street from our house. Every time the cows come to graze here, my Swiss neighbor stops me and asks, Tina, did you see the cows? Then he jabs his elbow sideways while he says, Christmas dinner. And then my other neighbor calls the township to complain that the bells keep her up at night, and could the farmer please corral them to the far end of the plot, which is directly in front of my house. I don't complain though, because this other neighbor is my landlord, and she is skilled at charging us for things that are not in our contract. Anyway, I've got 1 minute before this rager starts, and as I rack my brain to fill the 10-minute time slot, I am careful to leave the exact amount of seconds to display the party favors at the entrance. I ordered Dora and Diego books for everyone. At first, I thought to order them in French because it is the language Dora speaks on TV. Instead of singing, I'm a map, she sings, Je suis le cat. However, she teaches the special words in English. No habla español here, and it is virtually meaningless that Dora is Mexican. I wanted these international kids to know who she really is, so I got all the books in English. I called to my husband, hey, could you get the music going? We should set the atmosphere for when these kids arrive. I created an entire playlist with segments for arrival, lunch, breakout activities, and musical statue. Apparently, I failed to back up this effort correctly and only downloaded one song. After we lost our Wi-Fi signal, it was up to Justin Timberlake's Señorita to carry the theme of this Mexicanish party. Oh, I see our first guest arriving. A tall figure approaches wearing a maxi dress with a leather belt and 2 small buns on the top of her head. The glass panes which separate the cafeteria from the main hallway blur her image, and for a moment I see a horned helmet and the fur of a sheared animal draped over her shoulders. As she floats towards me, her dress grazes the floor, making her feet invisible with each step. 2 live smaller animals bob up and down behind her. It's Brit. "Skoll," she says in a guttural voice with a wild smile. Then she throws her head back and guffaws. She tilts forward a magnum of champagne, her large hand palming it at the base. Suddenly, I feel understood by this soul, and I am grinning ear to ear. Game on. Right next to Brit is Emily. I don't know how long she's been standing there. She holds out a magazine-worthy cookie tray, served up as a presentation with both hands underneath and out of the way in case I want to take a picture, and she is impeccably dressed. I've known Emily for a little while now, and I've achieved the maximum closeness we will ever reach in our relationship. Emily will listen carefully to me during an event session, with lips pursed so tightly they are almost blue, like the seal on a Ziploc bag which has an air bubble in it that will never escape. God forbid she accidentally says the wrong thing and alienates a person of influence in her worldwide network. Her every comment is measured and boring. She's super helpful though. I turn with the cookie tray and nearly destroy the masterpiece as I wallop Charlotte, who's linked together by hand to a long chain of 5 people. "Oh, hi, Tina. We was just saying that in the outback, one's got to link hands and pretend to be bigger than a mountain lion in order to survive, yeah?" I see. The world around me morphs into half speed as I process this information. And then I make a deliberate split-second decision. That's perfect. Get all these kids to join in for the next 10 minutes and be sure to make one of them the mountain lion. And I'm on autopilot while Charlotte takes the reins, and when I've come to, I've somehow managed to get the entire party of children seated at their tables to eat lunch. Except for one. Anna Claude is standing outside the glass panes, looking in as all the kids are seated and waiting for her daughter, Anouk, before they start eating. But Anna Claude is not yet ready to enter because she is finalizing travel plans for the Easter break, which is 3.5 weeks from now. "Sorry, that could not be done earlier. Anouk just had a group of friends over and they left right before we came." Anna Claude sees the gift table and comments aloud, "All right, Anouk does not have a gift. Some things just fall through the cracks. You know how it is." I guess I'll have to scream into a pillow later on because right now I must race off to remove the lunch plates. I ask little Mateo if he is finished, and he pushes his plate toward me with the reply, "You can go ahead and take that away." It appears Mateo is learning the finer points of dealing with what he perceives as the new help after his recent move. Today I had this vision of children playing, parents toasting, everyone enjoying themselves so much that we lose track of time and the party just keeps going. Now I'm really just trying to make it through the next hour and 45 minutes before I start flinging manure and becoming a legend for the wrong reasons. This type A crowd defies conventional maximums, so if arrogance had a limit, they don't know about it. It's kind of annoying to have to take your kids to birthday parties and play dates. I really miss Southeast Asia where the help would do all of that for you. I know, right? We teach our kids to make their own beds though. It's important. These types of conversations are occurring in pockets throughout the cafeteria as parents have instinctively organized themselves into their respective colonies. There are career expats, those on a continuous rotation of assignments in multiple countries, first-timers, expats on their first assignment in their first foreign country, and a third group, which is big enough only for Anna Claude. "Oh, hi, Susan. How are you finding Switzerland? There's a great website for family activities here, I reckon," offers Charlotte. "Susan, have some bubbles," demands Britt. Cookie, proposes Emily. Oh, that's all right, says Susan. We all look at each other, perplexed by the reaction. Most places have similar resources. I've done this before. Susan shrugs and walks over to the career group. Oh dear, said Emily. Alas, we make it to cake time, and the endurance of every 5-year-old is starting to wane. Kids are hanging sideways off their chairs amidst a cacophony of whines and grunts, which includes Senorita, still. Apparently, they all decided to stop using their words. Moms are in a panic and are requesting politely but desperately to put something in their children's mouths. It has come to the point where they will accept the store-bought cake as opposed to the fancy, overpriced, inedible mountain of spectacular fondant they've become accustomed to at each other's toddler birthday parties. We sing happy birthday and Audrey blows out the candles. The kids have shapeshifted into rabid dogs and are toppling over each other on the long cafeteria table to reach the cake. The tablecloth is sliding. I quickly section the cake into crooked squares so I can avoid slicing someone's child's finger. I hand out the first couple of pieces and, Papa, les vermicelles au chocolat sont vivants. The chocolate sprinkles are alive. I swipe the knife with my finger to cut clean the next piece and I see them, the ants marching in a switch-pack pattern throughout the chocolate and vanilla swirls of cake. I look upward and I am transported to a dream bubble where I am Gordon Ramsay in Hell's Kitchen, raising both of my clutched fists to my temples and exclaiming, "Ah, fuck me," loud enough for both the staff and patrons to hear. I rush the cake to the back. I'm hiding and pacing. Charlotte, who is actually concerned, comes over to offer support. I now wonder if I swore aloud. Then the magnetic force field around the drama pulls in the rest. You know, it's very common to eat insects in Thailand. We travel there about every 3rd year when we take our yacht on a world trip. Of course, they eat them in Mexico too, says Anna Claude. Yeah, well, we eat ants for brekkie, retorts Charlotte. I'll drink to that, adds Britt. Oh dear, says Emily. All the moms and a stray dad unite to blow ants off their own child's slice of birthday cake, except Anna Claude, who just hands her plate out to the first taker and instructs, "You can do this one too, I am fine with that," while she handles more business on her phone, not bothering to look up while speaking. By the grace of God, most of the kids stick to the habit of eating 1 or 2 bites and then fuck off from the table, leaving behind a wasteland of cake slices to be carried away to a dark secret place by the mighty ants. Eventually, the career expats politely thank us and leave en masse, while the first-timers unnecessarily but generously help to clean up. I guess it's important for each person to respect her role. When this happens, the expat community works the best that it can, like a family with members you can't choose, but who unite in a crisis until they are not there anymore. The members march forward, rebuilding temporary connections wherever they may be, over and over again. The world's longest day is over, and I cross that birthday party off my to-do list. As I finally lay my head to my pillow, I am eager to reflect on so many things. I am distracted, however, reciting Justin Timberlake's Senorita in my head and trying to reconcile the rhythm with the incessant ringing of cowbells outside my window. I think when I wake up tomorrow, I'm going to knock on my neighbor's door and find out what his plans are for Christmas dinner. Good night.
Tina, let's give it up for Tina. That was amazing. That was so good and so funny. And I am so sorry you had to live through that. I hope that you can tell Audrey about all of that one day or let her hear this story, because that's really great and really well done. So, all right, let's move on. We have our next reader. Let's give it up for Nikki Hartung.
Thank you, Gina. Hello. Okay, my essay is called Amaretto. Okay. There I was, a bumbling, sweaty, womanly plight at 11:30 p.m., weighed down by a gray JanSport equal to the size of half my body and a large shopping bag brimming with costumes equal to my other half, as my feet hastened down century-old cobblestones. This is like something out of a movie. I thought as I slogged home against the blue-black sky of Notting Hill hanging like a backdrop, the crisp October city air swirling lingering hints of warm summer garbage around my nose. It had happened, my first time. I bought the morning after pill. My suburban starchiness flitted away as I hustled into the Boots, the British love child of a CVS and Walgreens. As a rookie in Killing Babies, I presumed that this opening montage would likely take place in the feminine aisle. I made a beeline for what I hoped would be a shelf lined with Her Majesty, that saccharine Plan B, just sitting there waiting for me to invite her back to my place so that she could wreak havoc on my entire hormone system, whilst also sweetly assuring me that my uterus would not become a kiddie pool for a child. My friend Adi, when telling me about a guy she was seeing, once used the phrase, eating movies in my head. This has become one of my favorite phrases. It's not just making up stories, the fantasy, the daydream, the anxiety rabbit hole we scurry down following delusional answers about a pending situation. It's eating all that movie popcorn, filling up on empty calories instead of the reality that rages on. I met Ed Barsim, the would-be father of the morsel I killed, after my friend Bess's show at Theatre 503, a launchpad theater where many London actors get their start. Like a good, trained woman, I simpered along as Ed and his posse of purebred actor-directors relived performances from their Oxford University days. I smelt fresh from the trenches of drama school and, at 23, was still enamored by all things breathing with an accent. Even Boots looked to me like Buckingham Palace, rather than the same convenient, dull corporate glow luring me in to purchase the buy one, get one half off L'Oreal lipstick and some sparkling water, even though I only came in for floss. As my search party in the feminine aisle slowly dead-ended with shelf after shelf only containing the normal, everyday, wallet-guzzling feminine products, anxiety began to garnish my brain. Sweating in the dried sweat of my coat and praying I would not have to talk turkey with the late-night male employee scouting the store for customers to assault with help, I rounded the corner and studiously combed through the baby aisle. Surely, the baby aisle would occupy a spot on their shelves for the No Baby Today products. Around this time in my life, I was experiencing random and frequent nosebleeds, perhaps a PTSD syndrome from the warfare of drama school. I had never in my life had nosebleeds before this, and roughly 2 months after this, they stopped, and I have not had one since. But there, in the Boots, in the baby aisle, at 11:30 p.m., I felt the trickle of warm red snot water dribble down my face. A 7-pound and 3-ounce nosebleed was born in the Boots. Charmingly, the baby aisle did cater to the needs of my face. I grabbed the first small Kleenex pack I saw and stuffed my nose holes full of twisted tissue. The soundtrack in this scene now promptly changed to Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock's It Takes Two. It takes two to make a thing go right. It takes two to make it out of sight. I realized I must accept defeat, ask the Boots employee for his help, and consequently admit my poor planning to this stranger, who would undoubtedly judge me, go home, tell their partner about the sad, sweaty, bloody fuck-up I was, then their partner would tell someone else, and eventually it would get to my family, and from there ruin the rest of my life, and everyone would know I'd failed. I'd been irresponsible. Clearly, I hadn't listened in sex ed, and the award I received in my 10th grade French class still held true, most likely to ask a question that has probably already been answered. Excuse me, where can I find Plan B? This was the movie my 23-year-old brain was snacking on. Even though I had been smart, I was still being smart. The inciting incident of this womanly milestone, we have so many, had occurred around 2 p.m. that day in a stale room that the afternoon sun was not interested in properly lighting. As Ed Barsim flopped onto his back while I lay there contemplating if this was what an orgasm felt like, Beethoven's Fifth Symphony struck up as I heard, you probably should buy the morning after pill. Pardon? Yeah, I don't know where it is. It's not on the condom, so you should buy it. The British accent suddenly sounded like construction that starts up at 7 a.m. outside your apartment, even though they said it wouldn't start until 8 a.m., and even though it's a Saturday. Or kind of like Godzilla. After a slight falter with my lines, like a good trained woman, I carried on with the show. Yeah, okay, cool. No, I haven't had to buy it before, and I'm not on any birth control, so yeah, but okay, yeah, it's cool. 2 stale, well-acted hours later, we said goodbye on the marbled stairs, and I stuffed myself into the sticky can of the London Tube, where I journeyed 50 minutes south to my first professional and therefore unpaid theater gig. I got the gig not because of my talent, but because my friend's friend had to drop out, and my friend, Bess, the same friend whose show I met Ed at, couldn't do it. So there I was. This was not a life-changing show, but it wasn't a bad show. Granted, my best friend's boyfriend at the time will tell you otherwise, like he did to our director after the show. He has never seen college improv. Nearing the shop's closing time, the Boots employee fervently preached that the cheeky lady I sought lounged in a royal chaise behind the pharmacy counter. Cool. Now 2 people will know about my mistake, increasing the chances of this getting around. It's as if I mused that I was some celebrity and that the paparazzi would be waiting for me outside to leave the Boots. Then, like vultures, they'd storm in, interviewing the 2 Boots employees. And then, even though my parents follow nothing in the UK, they would manage to see a copy of next week's Daily Mail with me on the cover, and my acting career would be over. Finito, with a no, not good, not bad, unpaid theater gig I didn't audition for. In reality, at long last, after a brief lost in translation moment with the pharmacist, British and American English are truly not the same English, I finally made the trade. My soul for eternity for the little lady, Plan B. A month later, when my hormones were simmering back down to their idea of normal, Ed and I went for sushi and a movie. There was definitely an odd smell in the air, and it wasn't the lingering hints of warm summer garbage. During the date, he told me that if he ever has a kid, he wants to name her Amaretto. Very glad to have killed our kid. After the movie, as we walked the cobblestone streets of Oxford Circus, Ed turned to me, touched my elbow, and said, "So, I don't think I'm really feeling the spark anymore." To which I played it totally cool. Cool, same, yeah, I feel that. But like, I still like you as a person, so we should totally be friends. A mumble of some form of agreement tumbles out in his Godzilla accent, followed by his famous line, "Yeah, so I'm going to go left, and I think you should keep going straight." To get home, I needed to go left, but instead I went the long way. I have not dated anyone else Bess has introduced me to. I have bought the morning after pill 2 other times, and if I needed it tomorrow, I wouldn't hesitate to buy it, and I would have no problem letting my family or the Daily Mail know. Okay, maybe not my dad. He can have popcorn. I would also have no problem asking whoever's amaretto I'm killing to please Venmo me the entirety of their next paycheck. Personally, I can no longer muster any simpering, so honestly, it's a good thing Harry found Meghan Markle, even though the movie I ate on that was 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nikki. That was great. Everybody, please give her a round of applause. That guy sounds like a nightmare. So I'm glad we can, turn it into gold. So thank you for doing that. All right, let's keep it going. Our next reader is Mike Johnson.
Thanks, Gina. Jill casually looked up from the display console of our 2017 Toyota Prius, paused for a second, and then matter-of-factly said, "Piper, you will never go to Japan." That sentence, "Piper, you will never go to Japan," had just cut through the silence of our 2017 Toyota Prius. Jill said that seemingly out of nowhere to Piper, our 10-month-old mixed breed puppy. She's mostly shepherd with a bit of terrier and chow mixed in as well. Something I feel I should mention is that for the last 15 months, I've been living through a global pandemic. As a way to help cope during this unprecedented isolation and loss of outdoor brunch options, Jill and I thought it'd be a good idea to add raising a puppy to our mental stress. We decided on a puppy from a shelter over having a child because the waiting period for a puppy was quite a bit shorter than 9 months. The moment we brought Piper home, I knew that my stranglehold on the number 2 spot in our household was tenuous at best. It was looking more and more like I would be assuming the Speaker of the House role at our home in terms of succession planning. We had rescued Piper from a shelter at the end of last summer. I mentioned that we rescued her again, so you know I'm kind when it comes to acquiring pets. When Jill said, "Piper, you will not go to Japan," my first subconscious thought was, of course Piper won't go to Japan. I never did, and she probably wouldn't either. Those words felt like a fact that we all know to be true. This statement felt like just one of those certain truths that you know and you don't question it because there isn't much reason to do so. And we all have a list of truths. The sun will rise in the east, the sun will set in the west. Toilet seats are cleaner than your cell phone, and you can't hum while holding your nose shut. Piper never going to Japan seemed like a new, undeniable truth I could add to that list. Full disclosure, I have never been to Japan. While I have never left the North American continent, I have ventured to an easy-to-count number of time zones. These eyes have seen the many wonders that span the Eastern, Mountain, Pacific, and Alaskan time zones, as well as a little referenced Hawaiian Aleutian time zone. The young dreamer version of me would never have thought me not going to Japan or anywhere else outside the United States. It would be ridiculous by this point in my life. When I was young, I thought I would have traveled the world by now. At least that's what I'd hoped to do. I grew up on the southwest side of Chicago. I say that so when you hear that I grew up in Chicago, you assume I have a certain toughness about me as well. A lot of people that I went to grade school and high school with stayed close to home after they finished school. The friends they had as kids are the friends they have as adults. The neighborhood they lived in then is not far from the neighborhood they live in now. And for a lot of folks where I grew up, it felt like their life was laid out to be a certain way, and a lot of people just followed that same script. That was what a lot of people graduated with. That was what a lot of people I graduated with did. Maybe that was their truth. Back then, I didn't want to follow a script. I couldn't understand why people wouldn't want to go to new places to see amazing things and meet new people. However, if I were to write my epitaph today, it would probably read, "Here lies Mike Johnson. When he came of age, he traversed many bus stops to attend college in downtown Chicago. To get away from his family that lived in the south side of Chicago, he migrated north to spend the remainder of his days in the distant land known as the north side of Chicago." I have never gone to Japan. Piper, you will never go to Japan. To help get Piper acclimated to other people and dogs after being born during that global pandemic I told you about earlier, we decided to enroll her in a basic obedience class. The name of the place where we ended up taking Piper is a place that is called Anything is Pausable. That is pause, P-A-W-Z with a Z at the end. Anything is pausable. Jill made her bold declaration while we were driving home from that dog training in our new to us Toyota Prius. The Prius was another recent addition to the family that somehow managed to push me further down the hierarchical structure in the household. I've mentioned a few times that we own a Prius, so that you know I'm thoughtful about our environment when buying cars. I don't know if any of you all have ridden in a car that's been made after the year 2013 as of yet. What I've come to learn is that when a song is playing, the console display will show you the name of the artist and the first 16 letters of that song that is currently playing. My prior car was a 2002 Subaru Outback, so this is all pretty new to me. So during this particular ride home, there wasn't much conversation going on. We'd all been through the ringer at obedience class. We were learning how not to jump on the instructor when they came within 5 feet of you. Jill and I took quite easy to that, but Piper seemed to be struggling with it still. We were all pretty tired, and I was focusing how I could parlay Piper's obedience struggles into a new way to move up the chain command of our household. There was a catchy song that was playing on the car radio. Jill glanced at the console to see the name of the song and the artist. The song was Be Sweet by Japanese Breakfast. It was then that Jill uttered the words that had caught me so off guard and sent me down this memory rabbit hole. I mentioned that the song was by the artist Japanese Breakfast so that you know where the idea of Piper not going to Japan came from. More importantly, I want you to know how hip I am based on this music I listen to. A long time and many pant sizes ago, I had an idea that I would run a marathon in every continent. I was just out of college. I was soon to be flush with cash with the wealth I would receive from the job that I was sure to find with my degree in finance that would take me everywhere to see what the world had to offer. When looking back on why I never followed that dream of traveling, I wish there was something cool or mind-blowing that could make you gasp and say, no way, I never saw that coming. There isn't something like that, though. The simple answer was money. To be honest, I'm not very good at managing it. I ran up credit card debt after college, a pretty big amount. Leaving home had a cost that I was happy to kick down my own timeline, assuming there'd be a cash cow job waiting for me at some point. When I wasn't making poor money decisions, I was getting unlucky too. Unexpected out-of-pocket ACL surgery bills and rehab were one of the first big hits. I did get what I thought was going to be a great job as a commodity trader at Chicago Board of Trade. things went south pretty quickly as my trading account money was tangled up in the 2011 MF global collapse and customer fund misallocation. Maybe you've heard of it. Overnight, I basically had all my money taken away from me with none in reserve. So I resorted to paying for things with credit cards again. The trading floor where I worked slowly became a ghost town with the advent of online trading, and my means of income started to go away. I had a dream of traveling the world. Life got in the way. Choices I made along the way with the money didn't help matters. I still could have traveled, but each event that pushed me further down a debt hole made that option feel just a little more further away. When you add up a bunch of tiny steps pushing away from something, those tiny steps become oceans that feel uncrossable. I mentioned that I accumulated tons of debt so that you know sometimes you get big dreams, but then you muck up your own plans so bad that it prevents you from doing what you'd hoped to do. In the last few years, with a better luck and better money choices, I can say that I'm now debt-free. I say that because it makes me feel good to hear it. I hadn't thought about wanting to run a marathon in every continent in a long time. I actually forgot that was a thing I wanted to do. I did manage to complete 5 marathons, all in the US. Not surprisingly, 3 of the 5 were in Chicago. So I've got 1 continent down and 6 still to go. My old knees may prevent me from running, but maybe I could find a different way to do it. Up until this moment, I had never once thought about sending Piper anywhere that would require an overseas flight. I knew she would go places with us, similar to a place that we call outside in the dog park, but Japan had even popped in my own head. What kind of world do we live in where when you hear that your dog will never go to Japan, your first instinct is to just shrug your shoulders and accept that truth? What kind of person doesn't think that, yes, their dog should go to Japan? As I thought this in our eco-friendly Prius, I then quickly remembered that Piper doesn't speak English well and likely doesn't have the ability to comprehend exactly what Jill said, nor the reality that was now made apparent to her. I also remember that we've not even started to teach her geography. I mean, she knows what outside means and she knows when we get close to the dog park and things like that, but we haven't even touched on things like cities and states, let alone countries on different continents with her yet. Now I'm thinking of all the benefits of Piper going to Japan. We could go shopping for the right outfits for her to wear. We could get her the dog version of cargo pants and jean shorts to reflect our Midwestern style. We would buy all the travel side versions of all her dog food and treats and poop bags. When I take her to the airport, we would have that moment where right before she goes through security, she looks back to wave at me, letting me know she's going to be okay. In my hopeful version of the future, she would get past security without jumping on anyone, confirming what we know to be true now. Piper can do anything she wants to. Even go to a country she currently doesn't know exists because she's only a puppy right now. Why wouldn't we want this to be our reality? Knowing that, what I say next is spell doom for any hopes I have of climbing up the house hierarchy, I want to say, Piper, if you're watching this, if you want to go to Japan, you just let me know. Maybe I'll go with you too, because anything is possible. Thank you.
Yay, Mike Johnson. Please give him a round of applause. That was so funny and so touching. Thank you for sharing that. Great, yes. Yes, please keep the comments going and keep listening because we have our next guest is Tracy McBee.
Hi, hello. This is called A Nice Place. This isn't a drill, bitch. Now is the time. I know you can feel it. Zombies are coming. That is a fact. This place is not safe for you anymore. They can smell your beautiful brain and they are hungry. We gotta go. This is our Jurassic Park Jello moment. You can sit here like Lexi, I think her name is Lexi, holding a spoon with that emerald cube jiggling away, but Tracy, drop the Jello and run. We must say goodbye to the life you have settled into, working into a dine restaurant by day, playing on silly stages at night. That life is gone now. Don't shake your head and sob at me. We must go now. Come with me if you want to live. Oh God. Now, pull your arm back inside the window. Are you trying to get out of this by letting a zombie bite you? This isn't gym class, girlfriend. It will take snap decision making from here on out, but you can do it. Yes, you can. Remember, you did improv for an embarrassing amount of time leading up to this mess. It'll be fun, like when the mice dress up Cinderella, but it's Cinderella dressing up Cinderella. You'll see. Okay, so we know if you overthink anything, you will just second guess yourself into inaction. Today, we are not getting eaten by zombies while putting an outfit together that serves up Ripley from Alien meets Thelma from Thelma and Louise. Yes, it certainly would be an epic look for an apocalypse, but we have not the time. Just go with your gut. Grab that orange silk scarf and jump into that jumpsuit. Now, let's pack survival stuff. Take the things that are essential. 5 pairs of sunglasses for different moods. Deodorant, your wigs. No, not the wigs. Leave the wigs. Okay, maybe 1 wig. No. Put the wig back. I'm sorry, let's move on. This is my first apocalypse too, you know. Okay, so toothbrush, socks, flip-flops, your good yoga pants, favorite and least favorite kimono, chakra crystals. Also, remember, we can always pick up anything we forgot at a CVS. Okay, and stop. We have too much shit. This isn't a vacation we're going on. Drop all that. Here, take this. It's a prepackaged survival go bag that your partner Louie, who loves stories in the form of comics, made for you years ago. Okay, let's move on. We have the go bag, check. Now grab 1 weapon that will define who your new persona is. This will be a telling choice you make, so choose wisely. For instance, an axe is a choice that screams, weapon? Yes, Tracy. I'm sorry to say this, but these zombies aren't killing themselves. The vegetarian inside of you that feels guilty taking the lives of vegetables sometimes must fully evolve into the vegetarian that will stop at nothing to kill a house centipede and eat Brussels sprouts without guilt. Imagine the world is house centipedes now, and scientists don't know enough about them. Weapon. We need a weapon. Now pick something multifunctional, like a big stick. In a moment's notice, it could be a cane for a tap dance routine, or if a party breaks out, provides limbo entertainment. And coincidentally, will destroy the poor soul who crosses your path. Okay, so now that you have your trademark weapon, wait, I don't see it. And gross. I shouldn't have to say this, but it can't be your sense of humor. I know I don't need to remind you that when the pressure is on, your comedy doesn't kill. We can relive all of those auditions if you don't believe. I see it, the big stick. Good choice. So now that you have your trademark weapon and your bag, it's okay to grab a personal token from this place that will remind you of your previous life that is currently ending. This will be for dramatic effect when you have a low point on your upcoming journey, and all you want to do is just give up. One last thing to look at before you die, or one last thing to look at to give you motivation to live. It could be a locket, a handwritten love note, or a performer ID from an improv theater you spent much of your youthful years at. I won't ask what you have chosen until we need it. Okay, you got it? Good. Okay, so we have our gear, our weapon, our token. Now let's hit the road and be on our holy hell, it's your downstairs neighbor, Zombie Jeff. He's wine drunk, standing between you and your exit to survival. Tracy, do something. You must end him before he ends you. Oh, let me fuel this fire and take you back in time to one of your first encounters with Jeff. Jeff. Your hair looks nice. Jeff, your new downstairs neighbor, startles you as he lights his cigarette. You have simply straightened your naturally curly hair, and this is a common, unsolicited verbal reaction from straight men, along with their sudden boners. He looks like Barney from the Flintstones and is watching you tend to your garden from his deck railing, ashing onto your plants. You are absolutely repulsed by this human, mostly because he doesn't care about anyone but himself, but also because he and his parents moved into the apartment below you, and it had been vacant for 6 months. It's gonna be hot all weekend, he announces as if the weather god. Yep, you say as you fill up your watering can with a hose. You should just get a sprinkler. He exhales his smoke high into your open windows above. I don't know. I just kind of like putting in the work. His brain will never understand what you just said. Jeff takes a deep, long chug from his Budweiser Margarita tall boy. Just being around him makes you and your plants wilt. He sucks. Sorry about the smoke. He has picked up on your cue. Has he picked up on your cues, or does he need something? Oh, yeah, smoke kind of just triggers me. I used to smoke and now I get very sick. We all used to smoke back in the 90s, right? He reveals he thinks you are as old as him, also while cutting you off. A double burn. Look, I'm going through a divorce. The smoking, the drinking, living in this shitty Airbnb. This isn't me. Jeff needs something. Oh, wow, I'm sorry to hear that. I didn't know you're going through a divorce. If you need anything, just let us know. You say this not as a procedure, you really mean it. I can understand how tough that might be. You know, I'm going through, so like my soon to be ex-wife, fingers crossed, she turned into another person after having our baby. She won't let my parents see him because they're like big Trump supporters, and like, come on, she knew that going into this. I mean, they're his grandparents. She's all depressed. So that's why we're splitting. She's got postpartum. I didn't sign up for that. Oh, Jeff sucks more than you thought. Steam is spilling out of your ears. That plant needs more water. So anyways, a social worker is going to be stopping by and interview all the neighbors. If they ask, I don't drink and I don't smoke. Okay, got it? You have only seen Jeff while doing these two things. Before you can respond to the crime he is asking you to commit for his baby, JP, Jeff's older parents pull up in his BMW SUV. He flicks his half-smoked cigarette into the neighbor's yard. Now that's a prime example of how not to build a fence, his dad, who looks like Mr. Burns, points out to no one in particular. He and his wife recently flew in from Arizona, a current hotspot, to help Jeff take back his life and his child. That plant needs more water, Jeff's dad announces. He stares at you, then shakes his head and continues on into the apartment. What country are we in, China? Jeff's mother sweetly says at you. You are not sure if she has dementia or if she's being casually racist. It's like we're in a horror movie, she says to her men. Oh, you have a mask on. She's casually racist. The three go inside and shut the door. The real horror is this family, and as much as you want to pop off, you stop yourself. Their time will come. And Jeff's time is now. Quick, Tracy, the big stick. He's still shitty and he's a zombie. Why are you running? Oh, that was your chance. Fine, okay, while we're running, now is the time to pick a fun mode of transportation to get us to where we need to go. A motorcycle, a futuristic train, a hot air balloon, a wild horse. Those are just some of the options that can take you to your safe place. Remember, you are afraid of heights and you never renewed your expired driver's license because it was a rebellion against your aging face. Let's take a moment to remember that photo ID. I'll say it. You were fucking hot in that last photo ID taken in your distant youthful 20s. If only you hadn't lost it forever in a forever 21 months before. Excuse me, you work here, right? You ask a young woman standing behind the Forever 21 cash register. She simply nods while surveying the line that is formed behind you. Hi, I'm the missing wallet lady. Her eyes try their hardest not to roll into her head. Hi, I'll be leaving soon, but can you just let your coworkers know that I'm not interested in the wallet itself or the gift cards in it. They can have all that if they find it. It's my expired driver's license that I want back. It was taken on a really nice day, and it was truly one of the best photos I've ever taken. I want to be remembered that way. How I looked and felt on that day. I had just broken up with like a real piece of shit, and I was so happy to start my new life. And I I found it. I had a happy life afterwards. The ID has no value, just a happy memory of who I was at one time, you know, like hopeful. Can you tell your staff that? And like maybe like karma? Okay, so wild horse it is. We've chosen wild horse. That's a great choice. Not only is it transportation, but it's also a companion. Now we must name this horse something epic, something strong, like Primarius. Remember when you heard that name for the first time at your old serving job? Serving job? All right, servers, listen up, says Dan, the latest general manager given the task to save the sinking ship of a restaurant as he begins the servers pre-shift meeting. His audience, including yourself, is a seasoned staff of servers that know the drill. This check-in is procedural, something to kill the time before we put our hands in, say a cheer, and run out to an empty dining room for 2 hours. Wait on one table, and then get cut for the night. He looks down at his notes that are inches away from his face and pushes his glasses up his nose. Phones away, he mumbles as he collects himself for this presentation. No one's phones were out. Okay, we have 20 guests on the book for tonight. One big party of 15 coming in. They canceled. Mayella, the energetic hostess, interjects with her perfect timing as she breezes by our meeting to the back of the house, her perfect hair bouncing behind her. We all look around and do the simple math. That leaves one server per guest. No one's making money tonight. Well, let's hope for some walk-ins then. He looks up and gazes out the window across the street to the new hotspot that just opened up. The place is full of guests, buzzing with young energy and trendy lights. Maybe they will get too crowded and we'll get some spillover, he hopes. Maybe if I open up the garage doors and they can see that we have plenty of room, they'll come in, he thinks to himself. Is it inviting or is it pitiful to show how empty you are inside? Tonight we have a new wine of the moment. It's called It's Primarius. The two owners of the restaurant in unison interrupt from across the restaurant. They're two very rich white men, Jared and RJ Millman, also known as the boys. And they have been in your life for almost every single day for 13 years. They hired you to open this restaurant, the first restaurant of their empire, and for some reason, they really like you. They get up from across the table, they get up from the table of fear they have been stationed at during the lunch rush. They must have finished up their monthly test on the sous chef Ben. This is when new food is judged by the boys each week as the sous chef clenches his asshole and watches with a sweaty brow. Rarely, a new menu item is approved, received very well by the clientele, and then abruptly taken off the menu forever. The servers are then left to pick up the pieces of shattered guests' dreams of taco salad or chili. But Rachel, why? Why in God's name, why would they take chili off the menu? One of my regulars who confidently calls me the wrong name will cry to me years later. Because, I say, isn't it better to have had chili and lost it than to have never had chili at all? I'd let them rest their weepy face on my bosom as I slip the hungry check presenter onto the table. I don't dare tell them that it's a psychological game of wrath the boys play with the menu. It's within this giveth and taketh awayeth that makes the boys the besteth in the business. It's pronounced Primarius, and it's our friend from high school's new hobby, making wine. So really sell it. It's now the other brother's turn to speak. Yeah, really sell it, guys. Tracy, fix your hair. They then leave the building as Dan picks up his pre-shift meeting. And that's it. Go ahead and taste it. The servers swirl, sip, and gag on this piss. Primarius will be your horse's name because you name a fucking magic horse, Primarius, and not shitty wine made by bored rich people. Primarius gallops swiftly out of the city with you bouncing strongly, not awkwardly, on its back. The establishments you loved and hated crumble in your wake. The zombies cannot keep up, and they give up. feel the wind, the wild wind in your long, luxurious hair. If you grabbed the wig I told you to, it bounces perfectly behind you. As the city begins to sink into the opening from the hell that is claiming all its prizes, you feel a weight lifted off your shoulders. You are light and airy, and woo, oh, you're literally flying. Primarius had wings this whole time. My God, what a level up. Enjoy this part. It's nice. This is nice. And I'm just going to end right there. Thank you so much.
Oh my God, Tracy, that was amazing. Thank you so much. Everybody, please. A big round of applause for Tracy McPhee. I loved that so much. And I think everybody else did too. I mean, yeah. So thanks again, Tracy. And let's keep this moving. For our next reader, Pete Parsons.
Everybody. We locked eyes, nodded in the slightest way to not tip off anybody that wasn't a member of our secret society, Alcoholics Anonymous. Exclusiveness and anonymity are foundational pillars of this elite club that I was finally classy enough to procure an invitation. My life after I joined this sophisticated establishment was riddled with perks and bennies beyond my wildest dreams. This secret society was super cool, and it had everything. Friends, soft drinks, moments of self-realization in a room that's a daycare during the day. I would have stopped drinking way earlier if I had known how super cool this club was. Then again, I probably wasn't sophisticated enough when I was only a super cool college student blacking out on the first night in the dorms with all of my floor mates at a hookah lounge. Locking eyes with this fellow high-class family member made me feel wildly superior, just like the Little Rascals always did. Yes, just like the Little Rascals, we were a bunch of rapscallions with a clubhouse and a bond, and that bond was merely just because that we belonged something unique to just us, alcoholism. I've always wanted to have a feeling of belonging to something unique, and that feeling is not unknown to the human experience. I want to feel like I belong. Is probably painted on cursive on driftwood and for sale at a Michael's craft store or a Talbot's. This yearning for belonging had been with me since I was 8, and I saw Spanky and all of his goof troop pals get into rascally antics like winning a go-kart race. I was one of them. But that feeling finally reappeared to me here, now, 26, getting into my own rascally antics, like learning how to not be an alcoholic, and watching movie theaters at the movies was my best resource. The Century Landmark Theater in Chicago on Clark Street is a fantastic place to spend an afternoon. It's a hybrid movie theater and a strip mall. This place has it all as well. A Garrett's Popcorn, Walgreens, Victoria's Secret, Hertz rental cars, and if you feel like taking a chance and taking your life in a different direction, you could sign up for beauty school in the lobby. I only visited Walgreens once, and that was to buy candy that was 400% cheaper than it was 5 stories up at the movie theater. Ah, the Nickelodeon, always a great place to escape your problems. You had 3 options of getting up to this wondrous illusion theater: the glass elevator, a series of escalators, or the ramps that winded all the way up to the top. The people's choice for getting down after a movie was the glass elevator. I imagine it's because everyone had just consumed popcorn that had been stored in a garbage bag and covered in a brand of butter that is nestled neatly away on someone's makeshift shelves in a doomsday bunker. I opted for the elevator, as the popcorn I had consumed from the Glad garbage bag used by general contractors, and I weren't up for the physical demands it would take to stand down 5 flights of escalators. I was in the elevator, and I thought, any time that you're in an elevator, you're kind of in a little secret club. Every action of your life has brought you to this moment with people who you will never see again. And these people were in this no invitation club merely because they needed a bra for a confidence boost after a breakup, rent a car because they told a love interest they had one and they called their bluff, got off on the wrong floor for beauty school orientation, or in my case, to see a movie to distract myself. How I came to this decision isn't that exciting. One night I drank, the next morning really sucked, and I haven't had a bad night since. I'm one of the fortunate ones for whom it was not a major challenge to stop drinking. I just stopped doing this one thing. So it feels wrong when I tell people I stopped doing this one thing and they immediately have a new level of pride for me. I always envision when I tell people that I stopped drinking, their immediate thought is, so brave. It's so brave. But it's not. And in my head, I just assume that maybe you think I was some alcoholic father waiting outside his old house, watching his family celebrate Christmas without me. Then my graduate student age daughter sees me through the window with my hat in hand to show off my washed and slicked hair, accompanied by no beard and a look in my eye that tells them I finally kicked the habit and can be trusted. I'm then led inside as I'm forgiven and I'm on my way to what was supposed to be a night filled with gaiety and figgy pudding until I showed up and ruined the vibe entirely. That's basically how I felt any time I walked into a room, anywhere, any age. Similar to when a record would skip in the movies because one person innocently committed one faux pas. And the only difference with me is the record didn't skip, it would just be me walking into the room. So no matter what, it was that. Even in a crowded room, I felt alone. I had hundreds of Facebook friends, but did they really know me? I had a mask on, but I couldn't remember which one was the real one and which one was the one I wore in public. These are the original thoughts that most teenagers and a current 33-year-old man had that made me feel like I was the only one who was isolated and lonely. Before this super cool society asked me to join their ragtag team, I wanted to belong. And that thought in some iteration is on some teenager's Facebook wall because she's the first person to get her growth spurt in middle school. When I got to my first meeting, I was rudely awakened that what I thought made me separate from the rest of the world made me beholden to the very people who could connect with me the most. It was a humbling realization to have in a room with people who I always associated the word losers around. Part of the Alcoholics Anonymous rule is that you don't talk about it or promote it, and I'll respect that, and I'll say as little as I can about it before moving on. But how it works is you go in and you share a story about your past that has come to you realize that it's time to stop. However, sometimes these stories usually come in the form of humble brags of them and of people in their prime, bragging about how much vodka they could drink and still make it on time to teach first period algebra. There are AA clubs everywhere, with tens and hundreds of people gathering each hour every day. And they're gathering in schools, in recreation centers, in church basements, empty art galleries, Halloween spirit costume stores after hours, anywhere you can set up a table and chairs. Sometimes it's just chairs. A temple, a AA club could meet in a scary empty storefront that feels like you're trespassing when you show up with your directions printed out. Or they're in schools and you can hear horrific drinking stories that have wrecked people's lives while you're on a rug in the shape of colorful puzzle pieces with a poster of Oprah encouraging you to read. Like power hours, where you take a shot of beer for 1 minute for 1 hour, AA is like that with stories. You hear one person share a story for 1 minute that's truly harrowing, and ding, on to the next. I spent the night in jail. Ding! My mother didn't even recognize me when she saw me. Ding! I saw a recording of myself and I didn't know who that person was. Ding! I ate the whole cake for my daughter's birthday the night before. Ding! You hear the most intimate details in the wildest range, from the widest range of people in the shortest amount of time. Ding! When I locked eyes with this guy, we both knew each other, but didn't know each other. I knew how he would spend taking secret nips, taking nips of gin from the garage. And I knew that he spent his high school graduation night alone because nobody invited him to a party. I couldn't tell you what he did for a living, but he knew that I got blackout drunk on my 23rd birthday party because nobody showed up. But he couldn't tell me how many siblings I had or that I was the Cat in the Hat in Seussical the musical. He only knew the bad parts. But all these thoughts and moments occurred to me in the time it took to get from the 5th floor to the 1st floor. Ding! The timer went off and our club mutually disbanded and we never met again. I saw him at the next meeting when we could finally acknowledge out loud in the safety of our temple and underneath the Holy Oprah poster that we had seen each other out in the wild. We could finally talk about the bond that we had that even during the time we weren't together in the meeting, we were protecting each other out in the wild. Did you like the movie you saw? What was that? The movie. Did you like the movie what we saw? Not really. Yeah, sometimes movies are bad. What was that? None. I always knew we would love our talks. I belonged somewhere. I never wanted to belong to this club, but just by being me, it was my right to join. I belonged to a group of people who knew what I went through, understood what I was talking about, spoke to me without saying a word. So this was like the Little Rascals. We all gathered, admitted we had problematic thoughts about ourselves, shared stories, listened and supported each other, and then left. They were all my friends though. Stymie sharing his stories about drinking and driving. Spanky, who was learning that he didn't always have to be right all the time. Alfalfa, drinking because he had commitment issues deep down. And me. All of those three things rolled into one. We were all kids, just misunderstood and acted on the only way we knew, the only way we could, and made the scary world tolerable by just hanging out with our buds, having snacks and chatting. Sometimes we run away from the very people who accept us the most. That moment in that elevator was what I had been looking for my entire life. I'd made it. I had it all. I had a clubhouse I could go to. I had a group of friends of vagabonds and miscreants who understood me. I was in a secret society. And it was one of the most connected moments of my life with my best friend, Dave. Or maybe his name was Michelangelo.
Thank you so much, Pete. All right, let's give him a round of applause. That was so thoughtful and so great. Thank you for reading that to us. I loved it. People are going crazy in these comments. All right, so let's keep this going. We have 3 readers left. And yeah, without further ado, let's hear it for Leah Slater.
This is called Pearl Harbor. Nicole had her own playroom with slope ceilings, and on each wall, a former babysitter had painted huge Disney princesses. Ariel lived above the door, depicted in swirling teals and purples. Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty occupied the side walls in blues and pinks, and Belle was enshrined on the back wall in a blaze of golds and browns. She was a prime distraction while I sat with a group of 10 and 11-year-old girls watching Michael Bay's war epic Pearl Harbor for Nicole's 11th birthday. Now, I have only seen Pearl Harbor this one time, but for those of you who haven't seen it, here are some key plot points that I still remember 20 years later. So, first of all, Ben Affleck and Josh Hartnett are best buds and World War II pilots, and Kate Beckinsale's a nurse. Kate Beckinsale gives Ben Affleck the shot in the butt, and they become a couple after that and have lots of sex. Okay, then everyone thinks that Ben Affleck, his character, dies, so Kate Beckinsale and Josh Hartnett have sex in a parachute hangar to comfort each other. Kate Beckinsale pulls on Josh Hartnett's dog tag here. That's not an important detail, but I just remember that I thought it was weird he was still wearing a necklace during sex. I thought you're supposed to be naked fully during sex, but anyways. Surprise, after this, Ben Affleck's character actually survived, comes home, is pissed to find out that his girlfriend and best friend had sex. Then Pearl Harbor happens, and it's like a 40-minute long action sequence that I mostly blocked from my memory. I just remember like sinking submarines and a bunch of hands reaching out of a porthole, and then Cuba Gooding Jr. clutching the body of his hot nurse fiance, but the rest was super violent and upsetting. Then Kate Beckinsale's character tells Ben Affleck that she's pregnant with Josh Hartnett's baby. So the year before, in 4th grade, they separated the boys and the girls for separate health classes. So I understood how this could happen, but it was wild to me that she got pregnant after that one sexy time in the parachutes, and not like all the other times she and Ben Affleck did it before that. But I knew that like someday, whenever I was ready to have sex, like very far in the future, that would never happen to me because I would be careful. and I would only have sex with someone I was going to marry. And I could tell Kate Beckinsale was not going to marry Josh Hartnett, even though I would have chosen Josh Hartnett if it was between him and Ben Affleck. And then finally, Josh Hartnett's character, spoiler alert, dies protecting Ben Affleck's character. And then Ben Affleck and Kate Beckinsale raised Josh and Kate's baby together. And Nicole loved this. She was definitely weeping at the end of it, whereas I was so numb from the whole 3-hour-long ordeal. Yes, it is actually 3 hours long, that I really couldn't feel anything. I did not like Pearl Harbor. The intimate scenes grossed me out as much as the violent ones, but Nicole loved it. To her, it was a masterpiece filled with very attractive adults doing very adult things like wearing lacy bras and rolling around in parachute hangers half naked. Kate Beckinsale got to have sex with Ben Affleck and Josh Hartnett, 2 men in the top 20 of her curated hot guy list. So Nicole had a list of hot guys that she started when we were in 4th grade. The number 1 spot on her list was held by Tom Felton, the actor who played Draco Malfoy in the Harry Potter movies. Why we couldn't have watched one of those movies for birthday was beyond me. But Nicole was passionate about Pearl Harbor. She owned this copy of the movie that we were watching. She was passionate about a lot of things, mostly about hot guys. She cataloged hot guys like a biologist might track an animal species. Her friends were her field team, and she was the head researcher. There were too many hot guys in the world, so Nicole needed help to capture them. We'd be at our overnight camp, and armed with only a disposable camera and her incomparable hot guy vision, as we called it, Nicole would spot one from across the crowded beach, often Matt, our friend Taylor's hot older brother, or Anthony, the hot sailing instructor from South Africa. Oh my God, look, she'd point across the beach at a distant figure with frosted tips, and we'd assume the position. We'd stand in front of her subject and let her direct us like a photographer at a high fashion shoot. A little to the left, good, now tilt your head, more, and smile. We'd come home from camp, and Nicole's mom would always be annoyed. She'd get whole rolls of film developed that consisted of blurry shots of her friends' ears and elbows with blurrier figures in the background. People were drawn to Nicole because she was one of those people that's naturally hilarious. She's a veterinarian now, but if she tried her hand at an open mic, she'd blow all the sad boys that populate the mics have been out of the water. She was one of the oldest in our grade with one of those awkward early September birthdays. She went through puberty first, got her period first, developed boobs first. I was always tall, but I was a little bit of a late bloomer in other areas. I didn't get my period until I was 14, but she was only 11 when she got hers, so she got to experience getting a tampon stuck up her vagina and could warn me what not to do to avoid that fate. One summer at overnight camp, she announced her discovery of masturbation to our cabin and explained how to make do with everyday objects like a hairbrush. Nicole was unapologetically herself, and I loved her for it. She discovered she could opera sing and did so in our cabin one year. We walked outside, and a boy asked if there was a man in our cabin, and we burst into hysterics. No man, just an eccentric 12-year-old girl entertaining her friends. Nicole's dad died when we were in 6th grade. He was Catholic, so his funeral was at a huge Catholic church. This was my first time at a funeral and at a church, so it was a lot of firsts for me. My friend Julia told me that they might have an open casket, which I absolutely did not want to see. Nicole's dad looked to me like Patrick Swayze. He seemed to exclusively wear muscle tees and had the kinds of muscles that were intimidating and confusing at the same time. I couldn't picture him in a suit. Luckily, there was no open casket. We got there and Nicole and our family were sitting in the front. I sat with our other friends in the back, completely unsure of what the correct protocol was for this type of situation. I remember there was a giant cross behind the casket with a life-size Jesus hanging with blood dripping from the nails in his hands. This struck me as odd decoration. Like the whole concept of a torture device as a symbol for religion is still weird to me. Like we get it, he died for your sins, but do you have to be so morbid about it? Forgive me if this sounds heretical, but I'm Jewish, so I'm already going to hell. The service ended and Nicole's dad's casket was marched down the aisle, and Nicole, her mom and sisters followed. I wanted to wave, say hi, something to let her know that I was there, but this seemed inappropriate. Nicole's mom is Jewish, so following the service, we went back to her house for a Shiva. Shiva means 7 in Hebrew, and is a tradition where for the 7 days following a death, the family of the deceased opens their home to anyone to stop by and bring food. Lots of food, so much food. And Not like casseroles or other boring things that are wake staples, but deli trays, like bagels and lox and black and white cookies, all the good staples. Jews tend to judge the success of Shiva on its food, and this one was very successful based on that alone. Every couple hours or so, there's like a 10-minute prayer session for the adults, but for the most part, a Shiva exists so the grieving don't have to feel so alone. I found Nicole in her playroom sitting on the couch under Ariel. A couple of our other friends were there, and after some initial awkwardness, we got to talk about boys. One of her many school crushes was maybe possibly going to show up at the Shiva because he lived a couple of houses down, and by God, we had to make sure we were ready to play it cool when and if he arrived. Did you see he got tan over winter break? He went to the Atlantis in the Bahamas. Shut up, Nicole screamed. What if he's already here? Throughout the house, adults were davening or praying and talking in hushed tones, and we were cracking up, as tended to happen with Nicole. For a while, I forgot why we were there. Things would be all right as long as there were hot guys in the world to distract us with their spiky hair and pop collars. This was the early 2000s, after all. When I left with my mom, I told her about how I felt guilty that we were laughing at a Shiva. I felt like I had done something wrong, like I had broken the rules of mourning. No, my mom explained to me. The whole point of a Shiva is to be there for the grieving in whatever way they need. For Nicole, she needed to be away from all the adults who looked at her sadly and who made her think about her dead dad when she didn't want to think about her dead dad, when she just wanted to laugh about hot guys and the rumor she watched Josh Hartnett and Ben Affleck make love to Kate Beckinsale and imagined herself as Kate Beckinsale someday. Thank you.
Let's give it up for Leah. That was beautiful. That was such a beautiful piece. Thank you, Leah. Wow, a lot of great stuff in there. Really confused how Draco Malfoy took the #1 spot on that list, but I'll let it slide. Okay. Okay, we have 2 readers left. Let's please give it up for Shadi Vasugi.
Hello. My dog is in here, so don't get distracted. Okay. God is great. God is good. Let us thank him for our food. Amen. Our tiny hands release, and my peers begin eating. There are 6 of us around a small table with our preschool teacher. I glance down at the peas and carrots and notice how pretty they look against the beige plastic tray. The kids around me are munching on their lunches, but I don't move. I can't move. I'm too excited because I, Shadi Vasugi, just prayed for the first time. What even was that? I don't think my family knows about this. I cannot wait. Shadi, shut up. Sorry, my dog. I cannot wait to get home and spread the good word. That evening, as we sit down to dinner of khoresh reimeh and saffron basmati rice, I announce, "We can't eat yet." "Come again?" my dad says. "We have to pray." My family stares at me, bug-eyed. I clasp my left hand around my sister Shahrazad's hand and my right hand around my mom's. I request they do the same with my dad. "Close your eyes. No peeking." God is good. God is great. Thank you, God, for our food. Amen. I open my eyes. "Amen," I nudge. "Amen," they respond. An immense feeling of satisfaction washes over me. I just saved my family from something scary, I think. "Anything else?" my dad asks. "Yeah," my sister says, mouthful of rice. "I'm changing my name to Sherry." In 1994, the population in Portland, Oregon was roughly 85 to 90% white. So having a teacher that was half black was notable. My preschool teacher was 4 white boys, 1 white girl, and me. One particular day, she taught us about the civil rights movement. She showed us a picture of a water fountain. "See, people like Shadi and I wouldn't be able to drink from the same water fountain as you guys." I nodded my head. "Yep, I'm black. I don't think my family knows about this. I cannot wait to share the news." It's a fall evening in 1998. The warm glow of our lamps fills the house, the clinking and clanking of my mother cleaning up after dinner, and the sound of soccer rages on our TV screen. My dad sits in his chair reading the Wall Street Journal. Dad, can I ask you a question? Of course, Aziz Mbale. He does not look up. I have to fill out a form for school, and it's asking me to pick what my race is, and it says white, Black or African American, American Indian and Alaska Native, Asian, Native Hawaiian, or some other race. Should I pick some other race? He puts down his paper. Absolutely not. You're white. Caucasian comes from the word Caucasus. Iranians come from the Caucasus Mountains, so you are quite literally Caucasian. I don't think my teachers know about this. I cannot wait to share the news. The following spring, I'm at my friend Hillary's house. We are covered in stickers, glitter, and body spray. You know, the works. Bath and Body Works. We are picking which Backstreet Boy we would like to fuck. Of course, we didn't know that then since we were only 8. So we would just say, who would you pick? I pick AJ, of course. Pierced, goatee, and insane. She picks Howie. What the hell? Who picks Howie? She's Mormon, though, so maybe that has something to do with it. Although, if I was Mormon, I would definitely pick Kevin. We hear a light knock at her bedroom door. A milky white hand slides through the frame. Mrs. McDermott peeks her face in, her glowing face in. Shawty, would you like to stay for dinner? Her white smile glistening. I'd love to, Mrs. McDermott. Her skin was like porcelain. Wonderful, she says. She floats elegantly down the hallway like a Mormon angel or a Casper the Ghost, if you will. Hillary and I gallop downstairs, pretending to be unicorns. The country music television channel is on. The sun is shining brightly because it is not yet 5 o'clock, and it smells like chicken. To the tune of Shania Twain's Man, I Feel Like a Woman, I sing, Man, it smells like chicken. I wanted them to know I could hang. The table is set. Plastic tablecloth, plastic placemats, plastic plates, plastic cups with... What is that? Is that... Shawty, would you like some milk? With dinner? I'd love some, Mrs. McDermott. I had never had whole milk before. I took one sip, and I think I came. But I didn't know that then since I was only 8, so I just said, that's really good. Oh, not yet, Shadi. Let's pray first. Oops. Yes, of course. Hillary's youngest sister motions to wipe my mouth. What? You have a milk mustache. Never having had a milk mustache before, I so desperately wanted to run to the bathroom and look in the mirror to see if I looked like Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen in the Got Milk campaign, but I decided to keep my chill. I wiped my upper lip with a napkin, revealing my actual mustache. Mr. and Mrs. McDermott and their 5 daughters hold hands, Hillary and the eldest daughter holding mine. Her father says the prayer. I keep my eyes open, taking it all in. Play cool, Shawty. Play cool. Have you ever had a tuna casserole before? No, I haven't. She peels back the foil, and the thick, creamy orange cheese on the wet tuna made my mouth water. Wow, that looks amazing. Would you like some ketchup? Would I? After dinner, Hillary and I run upstairs to the bonus playroom. We turn on the stereo, and Hillary slips in a CD by the country music group Shadazy, a band of Mormon sisters who had just won a CMT Music Award for Rising Star and who were literally Hillary's cousins. I am in the presence of Mormon country music royalty, and I am blissed out. Bellies full and hearts happy, we dance to their hit single, Little Goodbyes. I could feel the milk and tuna leaking through my pores, my olive skin melting into a puddle on the floor, and me stomping and splashing into it like I was Gene Kelly. The fastest I had ever seen my father run was after the second plane hit the Twin Towers. He bolted to our garage to pull out a cartoonishly large American flag reserved for 4th of July, and now I guess terrorist attacks. As my mom and I pull out of the driveway headed to my middle school, I see my dad hanging from the garage door in his suit, wrangling an American flag. After school, my friend Elise's mom picked us up. On the drive home, Gail asked, "Are people treating you differently now?" I said. To be honest, I had no idea what she was talking about. Oops, all the papers. I had no idea what she was talking about. What do you mean? You know, because of the terrorist attack? Oh, I paused. I don't think so. I guess 9/11 was connected to me somehow. My family stopped speaking Farsi in airports. My dad and I both shaved off our mustaches, and our friend Mohammed started going by Morgan. I don't know where all this panic was coming from. We're white. We're from the Caucasus Mountains, for Christ's sake. It's my junior year of high school, and I'm at a pep rally. There are 1,500 students crammed inside a gymnasium. A giant American flag rolls into the center of the room. Please rise for the national anthem. Everyone stands. I look around me, and all I see are sheep, whose fleece was white as snow. You know what? Fuck it. Fuck this place. I'm not standing for the national anthem. I'm not putting my hand over my heart, and I'm not going to sing. Well, I'm not going to harmonize. I look around the gym, and I notice the only other person not standing was my friend Galo, a Native American. That's right. Galo and me, we share the same plight here in America. His people, victims of colonization, forced assimilation, genocide, war, European diseases, slavery, confinement, mass murder, and extermination. My people don't know what box to check on that damn census form. Arab and Iranian communities have lobbied for years to create a separate category on the census for people of Middle Eastern and North African descent. The examples given on the 2020 census under white were German, Irish, English, Italian, Lebanese, Egyptian. But something very significant happened in 2020. For the first time ever, the census provided a place for individuals to write in their national origin next to their preferred racial categories. Iranian Americans were encouraged by leaders of the community to write in Iranian to ensure that the community is accurately counted. In 2020, the population of Portland, Oregon was 72.2% white. And The Atlantic recently named it the whitest big city in America. Good job, you guys. I was always proud of my Iranian heritage. I loved that my home was different from my school and social life. I loved speaking our beautiful language. I loved eating incredible Iranian food for dinner every night, no earlier than 8 p.m., I might add. And I loved being immersed in Persian poetry, music, and art my entire life. But I can't help but still feel a little envious of my white American friends, having the freedom to be as American as they want to be. I still ride through Wisconsin looking out the car window like I'm on a wild African safari. I still look at buffalo chicken dip with awe and amusement, especially if the recipe has been passed down a few generations. I still wish I knew what this whole Jesus thing is all about. Like, when is his birthday and when did he come back to life? What's he like? And I still secretly wish I had a milk mustache, not a real one. Last year, I wrote in Iranian on the census under my national origin. To no surprise, I was still confused. The truth is, there is no possible way to fit into a box. I can't authentically express who I am or label myself with enough specificity to make it clear to others. And even if I did, they might not accept it. What I can do is not let others dictate who I am or control my narrative or my story. Who I am to others, it's not up to me. Who I am to myself, that's all mine. Thank you.
Shadi, oh my God, that was awesome. Thank you. Let's clap for Shadi. I mean, that was so good. Thank you so much for sharing that. I loved all of it. We were cracking up in here, comments blowing up. Everyone's going crazy. Okay, this is it. Our last reader of the night. Let's give it up for Kenneth Yoder.
Yes. It was halfway through my waxing appointment when I learned that it is customary for people to take ibuprofen before their session as a way to manage pain. Why did you not take aspirin? Ingrid said with a half giggle, which I did not find a bit endearing. Because no one told me to, Ingrid, is what I would have said if it weren't for the fact that I had at least 30 minutes to go up there on her table and she was the one in charge of the wax. So I just smiled and said, not sure it would have mattered much, Ingrid. The slight pause before saying her name was as far as I was willing to push the sass. Now, I'm a pretty hairy guy. And also, turns out I have pretty sensitive skin, which means that when my hair gets forcibly removed, it gets replaced instantly with millions of these tiny pink pebble-sized blisters. Like my body is covered in Nerds candy, bubblegum flavor. All in, the process took an entire hour. And I'm not complaining. If anything, I'm bragging. I asked for this. This was all my idea because exactly 90 days before this waxing appointment, I decided on purpose to live the life of a professional bodybuilder for 100 days and make a documentary film about the process of transforming my body. Think of it like a reverse Supersize Me, except you take an out-of-shape average Joe and shoot him out of a cannon, a fitness cannon. I cast myself in the role of average Joe because I didn't have any money to make this film and lawsuits are expensive. Ingrid was now onto my inner thigh. And in an effort to keep my shit together, I rolled my head to the right. That was it. That was my move. In my defense, you pretty much only have the three. So as I lay there, head to the right, I watched her twirl that thick popsicle stick into a warm pot of sticky devil anger sauce. And then she pulled a satisfying hunk of hair off me, held it up and said, "Looks like a rabbit." It wasn't a great joke, but I laughed. I laughed hard. I laughed loud. It was an honest belly laugh, a maniacal laugh of a legitimate sociopath. And the more she smeared that warm wax all up in there, the more I laughed because pain was rounding into pleasure, which was challenging to my vanilla sexual disposition. And then the laughter stopped. Kind of like how a sparkler just goes out. My nervous system had no more sparks to spark, and I rolled my head back to standard and couldn't stop my mind from drifting all the way back to the choices that led up to this very moment. I remembered all the way back to day 1 of 100. It was so innocent. Meeting my coach, Dustin Nelson, at the gym that he owns. I remember walking in, being greeted by 2 bikini models behind the front desk, both wearing flat brim snapbacks on backwards. During the course of filming, I learned that the proper designation is bikini competitor, which is a subset category of bodybuilding, which itself is a term that's gone a bit out of fashion. The more agreed upon term now is fitness athlete. And Dustin's gym is the kind of gym where fitness athletes from all around the world pop in to say hi to Dustin if they happen to be in Chicago. There's an acupuncture treatment room because Dustin is a doctor of Chinese medicine. There's a fascial stretching treatment room and a room with an infrared sauna, which I only bring up because I doubt you know what those are. I didn't. And then there's one bigger room where people are entirely comfortable lifting weights with their shirts off. To the uninitiated, the room can feel like a real douche parade. But these people are some of the least judgmental people I've ever met, which I think is the truth. But there is a not zero chance that I was so out of shape that it didn't even occur to them to pass judgment on me, like almost how I never pass judgment on a goldfish. Dustin walked me up a narrow white hallway into the acupuncture treatment room. He closed the door behind us in legitimate slow motion. The metal thud against the latch bolt hitting the strike plate and then grinding against it until the click pop into the wooden door jamb. The door closing felt final. There was no going back. I was in this room with Dustin, pinching all my various body fats with this chrome metal pincher thing. And then he wrapped a measuring tape around my substantial midsection in an effort to gather enough data to quantify just exactly how much I had let myself go. And then I sat up on the massage table, not unlike the one I was currently being waxed on. He sat in a low chair across from me, and we talked. Now, there's a section of my brain that is fully automated and dedicated to calculating the probability of a given circumstance being coincidence or not. And these calculations are happening all the time as a way to sort of, close these little mental playback loops that, if left unchecked, would occupy my entire existence. In this moment, there was about a 68% chance that this table to chair orientation was by design. Dustin's a very intentional person, a very emotionally intelligent person, and I can imagine that he understands that starting a fitness journey can make a person feel scared, vulnerable, and maybe putting that person above his eye line may work to diffuse some of that fear. But also, 32%, I'm overthinking it. And then he looked me right in the eye and said, "So you want abs in 100 days?" I clarified. I said, "Yeah, I do want abs, but more importantly, I want the experience of pushing myself as far as I can toward living the life of a professional bodybuilder for 100 days. And also, I want to step on stage at one of those fitness shows where you get all crazy tan and flex your muscles in your underwear." Full disclosure, Dustin also happens to be my best friend. So he was scribbling down these little notes. He was asking these questions, but he already knew the answer to all this. This was for the sake of the camera. He was very aware of what we were doing and the risks involved. I'd been examined by a primary care physician who did 5 pages worth of science tests on my blood. Turns out I was hypertensive, borderline diabetic, and my cholesterol was, quote, through the roof. Medically, this little fitness stunt of mine was, quote, a terrible idea. Yeah, it was in my personal best interest to shape up, but this sort of transformation should ideally take about 2 years, certainly not 100 days. And there was a very real probability that I would have a heart attack or shed a clot and stroke out right there on the gym floor. The doctor wouldn't put an actual number to this probability, even though I nudged him to. So this particular mental loop stayed looping. Shedding a clot is slang for forming a blood clot in a major artery that could then detach during vigorous exercise and travel right on up to my brain. And it can happen when an out-of-shape 40-year-old gets shot out of a fitness cannon. Dustin was not convinced that this film was a smart idea, but my toxic trait is that I was going to do this film with or without him, which put him in a terrible spot. On the one hand, he does happen to be an elite fitness expert, one of the most elite fitness experts in the world. And the safest way for me to come out the other end was to have him in my corner. But on the other hand, Filmmaker Dies on Dustin Nelson's gym is not a great buzz builder. For him, it would be great press for the film. Now, for the record, this whole body waxing was Dustin's idea. I know I said that it was my idea before, but only in the sense that it was my idea to do the film. Every decision under that is kind of under that umbrella. But the body waxing was his idea. I could have shaved, which I learned shortly after I waxed. Now, there's a 50-50 chance that he recommended getting my body waxed because he thought it'd be a good scene for the film. Maybe 60-40 that it was a little bit of a revenge on me for putting him in such a tough spot. 100% chance he thought it was funny, but also I'm leaving room in my heart for the possibility that he understands how physical pain illuminates our relationship to fear. Of course, waxing hurts, but that is just the shit icing on a shit cake. The previous 90 days were defined by pain. Pain's the currency of this bodybuilding world. It's easy to look at the insane physique, the unapproachable physique of a professional bodybuilder and write it off as steroids or drug use or good genetics. And yes, there are steroids and yes, there are drugs. and they do have crazy genetics, but physical pain built these bodies. And it's not a stretch to say that mental and emotional pain fueled that tank up. Personally, I didn't take steroids for the film, but I would have if they asked me to. The quick and dirty truth about steroids is that all they do is really help your body recover faster, which means that you can go back to the gym sooner, which means that you can do more workouts. Okay, steroids don't make your muscle get bigger from the regular amount of workouts that you do. They allow you to recover so that you can go back for more and experience more pain. The person still has to be enthusiastic about inflicting double the amount of pain upon their body on purpose as a hobby. If you're good enough, you get to do it for a living. For me, in this particular process, I was able to recover enough with straight up food plus some supplements like protein powder, amino acids, digestive aids, fish oil, magnesium, etc. Something to help me sleep. Sleep is very important, and Epsom salt baths. Now, when I say food, I had to eat almost 3 pounds of meat per day, along with 3 pounds of vegetables per day. That's a half a pound of meat 6 times a day. I was full on day 1, and then I just had to keep eating. My carbs were non-existent, but every once in a while, I got a little rice or something, my little treat. But I needed this dense nutrition to recover from 13 hardcore lifting sessions per week, plus an hour of low intensity, steady state cardio per day, and a few high intensity wind sprints every week. My entire life was eating, sleeping, pooping, lifting, walking, sprinting. It's a challenge, and sometimes you're up to the challenge, and other times you're not. Your nervous system just doesn't have any spark, and that's when the voices in your head come out to play. The voice is sneaky, okay, and it works like this. Say on day 61 of 100, you're past tired, and you're past wanting to eat one more bite of food. You are over it. A little voice whispers and says, "Hey, bud, you could skip tonight's workout. I mean, look at all the progress you've made. Good job." But because you don't want your film to fail, you go to the gym anyways. Next day, you're more tired than you were the day before, and the voice speaks up again and says, "Order some Indian food, man. It's just rice, has meat in it. What's the big deal? One time." But you don't order the Indian food because it's not on the program. Willpower. Then in a few days, this is where the voice hasn't got what it wants yet. It says, "Man, what are you trying to prove?" Now, this is kind of a sideways remark because you can't really respond to it because it feels fair. What am I trying to prove? And then the next day, the inner voice goes for blood, and it says, "You know, your film's going to fail anyway, right? I mean, look, honestly, have a look at yourself. You have no money to fund this. You're missing all the good scenes because you can't afford to pay crew to be with you all the time. All this effort you're putting in, and your film's going to be garbage. Sorry. It's just the truth that no one has the stones to tell you, but I will." What are you supposed to do with that? You go to the gym, I guess. Eat your shitty food, I guess. As you approach day 80, this deficit phase of the diet kicks in, which means time to get hungry. Which is funny because the deficit phase is still more food than I've ever eaten in my life, but suddenly I'm hungry. The body's a weird place. I don't understand it. Maybe it's the lack of carbs that really put me in a mood, but this is when the voice gets louder and louder and meaner and meaner. Voice is you, obviously, so it knows exactly what to say to absolutely devastate you. One time, day 88, it's about 9 p.m., and I hadn't gotten my second lift in yet. So the voice says to me, "Do you really think the lift is going to change anything about your life? Look around you, man. You're single because literally nobody wants to be around you." I'm paraphrasing, but what kind of shit is that to say to yourself? I went to the gym that night, and Ingrid did eventually finish waxing me, and I did eventually step on stage and flex my little muscles. All told, in 100 days, I lost 30 pounds of fat, and I put back on 10 pounds of muscle. Net lost like 20 pounds. But it wasn't until day 97 that the most shocking and sort of unexpected thing happened. Out of nowhere, that voice just stopped. Maybe it said everything it needed to say. I don't know. I just kept doing my thing even when it talked. Maybe it gave up. But the first time in my entire life, my mind was quiet. I wasn't playing comparison game. I wasn't having round the clock imposter syndrome. I wasn't doing this hyper vigilant calculation thing. And I wasn't punishing myself for literally no reason. I was just fully in my body and I was fully present and my skin was exceptionally smooth. That's all I got. I can show you a picture, but yeah, put it on the website. I'll show you a picture. I'll show you a picture. Oh no. Well, I don't want to take up time.
Show it. Show it.
I'll show it. So here's what I did in 100 days, guys. Okay, that's all I got.
Oh my God, did everybody see that? That was so crazy. Yoder, that was amazing. Truly, I was captivated that listening to all that. I mean, it was great. Thank you so much for sharing. That voice, probably many of us know. So, I mean, we could totally relate to that. I hope you can promote your movie. I know that we would all love to see it. And Yoder he's great. He's working on a fitness thing with Dustin right now. So you can check it out on Instagram, called Recovering Bro. But yeah, anyways, you guys, that was our show. Let's give it up for all of our readers. Big round of applause. Everybody did so well. And that was great. That was such a great show. Everybody read so well. So yeah, that was Tartle at the Duke. So our next show is later in June, I think. We might be making that announcement soon. Otherwise, it will be July 11th, and we are back at Duke of Perth. So please submit if this looked fun and you want to read again. People that took this class, you're welcome to read again. Or if you're watching, please submit tartleattheduke.com. And that's it.